Hello everybody. Welcome back. You've tuned into the God Talk, guys. My name is Michael Mack. This is my beloved friend Michael Koran, and we're here to talk about God and just exactly what that means, what that is, and how our lives can change and shift and evolve and transform through a conscious communication with, a conscious relationship with God as we understand Him. God as we understand it. So I thought that I would start with a joke. One of the most profound jokes that I have ever heard, and in fact it's a joke that Michael Koran told me just a few days ago, and I have been meditating on it ever since. And so what I'd like to do is just tell it as best I can, and then afterwards, if I made any mistakes or you want to add anything, if you want to elucidate any of the points, but I would love to tell this joke. And so I'm going to give attribution to Michael Koran, who heard it 30, 40 years ago at the University of Chicago from a professor of philosophy. Is that right?
From Queens College.
Queens College.
In my philosophy class.
Queens College, New York.
Yep.
Philosophy class.
Yep.
Do you remember the name of the professor?
He was a Catholic theologian. He loved Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas. I don't think I remember his name.
Okay. Well, here's the joke. It's an umpire convention. And umpires from all across the nation are gathering to talk about baseball, and most specifically to talk about the true meaning of baseball. And so they gather for this week-long conference, and there are PowerPoint presentations, and there are workshops and breakout groups, and there are keynote speakers and plenum speakers. But at the end of this week-long convocation, they still don't feel like they have distilled the essence of the true meaning of baseball into a few succinct words. And so it would feel like a failure if everybody left without this pearl of great price that they were seeking. And so they all gather into the room one last time, and they decide to ask the three oldest umpires in the room if they could express to the best of their ability the true meaning of baseball. So they asked the third oldest, a guy who is in his 70s, if he would share what he has learned in all his decades of experience as an umpire. And so the man slowly stands up from his chair, and he takes a breath and he swallows, and he says, answering their question about the true meaning of baseball, he says, baseball, balls and strikes. I calls them as I sees them. And everybody in the room is going, wow. The humanity in that guy, the humility of that guy, recognizing that he is doing his best as an umpire to call the ball, to call the reality of the ball, but that he is limited by his own perception, by his own vision. And so they give him a standing ovation. And he sits back down, and then they ask the second oldest guy, who's a guy maybe in his 80s, and it takes him a little longer to stand up. And he doesn't quite stand up all the way because his back is kind of hunched. And he looks out, after he stands up, on the audience and gazes around the room and clears his throat and says, baseball, balls and strikes. I calls them as they are. And this blows everybody away, because they realize in that instant what he knows to be true. Perception is reality. And he has gone one step beyond. He is claiming his participation in reality, that he is co-creating reality with the ball as it's speeding toward home plate. And so they all stand up and they give him a standing ovation, twice as long. And he sits back down, and they ask the oldest umpire of all, the oldest umpire in the United States, to stand up and share his wisdom. And this is a guy in his 90s, and he's been playing baseball all his life. And you can see it in the way that he stands up, because you can almost hear each joint creak as he stands up. And he's holding on to a cane in each hand. And it's a little bit shaky, a little bit palsied. But his voice is still strong as he looks out over the audience with his red, rheumy eyes. And he says, baseball, balls and strikes, they ain't nothing till I call 'em. Now, yesterday, I shared that joke with a friend of mine who is a lover of baseball. And he didn't think that that was the end of the joke, because he was waiting for the analysis. He was waiting for the Monday, the Monday morning, the post-show analysis. So what might we make of those final words in the joke, where the most aged umpire stood up? I calls them, they ain't nothing till I call them. They ain't nothing till I call them. They don't even exist. It does not even exist until I call it. So it's almost like he is creating reality. So the first guy, he calls him as he sees him, and so he recognizes his human limitations. Second guy, he calls them as they are, so he's gone a step beyond in his spiritual evolution. And he recognizes that he is a participant in the reality, a major participant. Perception is reality. And the third guy, they ain't nothing till I call, they don't even exist, that he is the creator of reality. He creates the balls and strikes. So that's my take. What do you think, Michael? It was your joke, after all.
Well, I love what you did with my joke. Never heard, and most of it I've never heard told so well. It was beautiful.
All right.
Very elaborated. I would make a few suggestions.
Please.
In your analysis, I'll give you mine.
Okay.
So, as my professor told me, I'm a young college student.
You're in your 20s.
No, I'm 18.
Teens, okay.
Yes. And the first guy, they ain't nothing but I sees them. No, they ain't not. I calls them as I sees them. I'm
right.
sorry. I calls them as I sees them. And my telling of it, although I love yours in many, many, many ways, he raises his hand. Baseball, balls and strikes. I calls them as I sees them. Mm-hmm. And my take on this, for my life too, boy, it's not so easy. I'm learning to do this week, to say my truth. I'm reluctant to, because my truth gets me in trouble. Mm-hmm. And wasn't really...
Out of the mouths of babes.
Yes, but I am now trying, I'm committed to now, not with certain friends, but with most friends. Certain friends I have a pattern of just letting them be, but to say my truth when it arises. I calls them as I sees them. Mm-hmm. Not claiming it's the truth, but this is my truth now. Mm-hmm. And often carefully saying, this is how I see it. But I often would not say them. Well,
there is wisdom in that sometimes.
My condo association, we were having a meeting, and some of the members wanted me to raise the rents of the people. We rent 2 units. Mm-hmm. And I've been in charge of that. And I actually, as landlord, go down and ask my tenants, would you mind if I raise the rent for the next year?
Great landlord.
And they agree, usually $75 a year. But I don't like to raise it more because they're good tenants. And, if new people move in, I go to market rate.
Yeah.
And so some of the people were talking about getting market rate for these two units. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to cause trouble. And then finally, fortunately, one of the members of the group said, "What do you think, Michael?" Noticing my silence. And then I could say, for new people, we could do it. But I don't want to do it for the people that are living there.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they wanted to discuss it. But that's an example of me not saying my truth. And I don't want to do that anymore.
Hmm.
It's even probably criminal. I'm responsible to the condo. So that umpire is quite somebody. How many people do we meet who say their truth? And no, it's just their truth. Boy, is that extraordinary.
Well, there is, unfortunately, a kind of, if you have the louder and more forcefully and more dramatically and the more convincingly you can express your opinion, the more value that has, it seems, in our society.
And that's often not the truth, though. The truth is our doubts.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And truth that is just hurting people, I'm telling you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
is really not the truth because we might love them too, and it's not coming out. And we might really care how they feel. And so that's the real truth I'm learning. So now I can say the truth because I know it's mine, and I know I want to come across in a way, as they say in nonviolent communication, in a compassionate way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my real truth. So now I'm finally at this advanced stage can say it, because it's not that truth that I thought was true, which is just the words that come to me without considering
Mm-hmm.
the impact of them. So that umpire is extraordinary.
Mm.
He's called in philosophy, he's called a relativist.
Relativist.
Right, because he has his relative
He
view.
recognizes
That he's a relativist, yes.
that his perceptions are limited and other people have different perceptions.
And they have their truths.
Right.
But to share the truths, the real truth, which is not easy at all. The truth might be, I love you. That's a hard thing to really say, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that hurts me. The second umpire.
I calls them as they are.
Yes, from my Catholic theologian professor. That's Catholicism. That's Thomas Aquinas. I can get to the essence of things. I have learned in time not to see that big animal as a snake or a bird or a wall. I see it's an elephant. I'm not a blind man anymore.
I can't help but wonder if that is an illusory, I can't help but wonder if that's illusory. I mean, that is, for as long as people have been worshiping in religions or have been working with philosophy, I mean, that has been the Holy Grail, if you will, to find the essence of things, to peer beyond the veil, to peer behind the seemingness of things, to look beyond, as Hindus or as Buddhists would say, beyond beyond the illusion of things.
Yes.
That there is an essence that is eluding us,
Yes.
but that is available.
And they claim, all the traditions claim to have found it. All of them, even Buddhism, nothing. Underneath it all is that pregnant nothing. Brahma, in Hinduism, if you know yourself, Atman, your real self, then you're in touch with the cosmos.
What I would suggest, though, that at their heart, that what the true, that what all of these great traditions say when they say that they have the truth, is that when you really start to ask about that truth that they say that they have, it's beyond dogma. You start getting into more mystical ways of thinking about things. And to think about things mystically is to recognize and to honor the great mystery that we are all a part of. That there is true at its essence. There is no explanation for this. There is the awareness of it, there is the experience of it, but that when we start naming it, we start losing it.
And if we don't name it, I mean, there's a divinity in people.
To recognize the divinity.
There's love in people. Yeah.
To recognize that divinity, to recognize that love, is to be essentially in heaven.
There's a freedom in people. People are free. And I think we all have it to varying degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's true. And this cosmic mystery, with all its mystery.
It's not only cosmic mystery, it's also personal mystery.
Yes.
You know, who truly understands themselves? I mean, I think of myself as being the
biggest.
I can't exactly.
But that's very beautiful.
I look at my life.
But that's a truth. That's
Yeah.
a very profound truth.
It is.
And it's
who can, you know,
Socrates' truth. He was
that expression, it made sense at the time,
yes.
is a perfect expression to illustrate exactly that. The times that we do things, we look back on it later, I have no idea why I did that. It made sense at the time.
But in difficult ways, I do think that love, connection, caring connection, the old verities, compassion, keeping your word, telling your truth in a kind way, those are truths.
Yeah.
That's simple and hard to do and hard won.
And all of the great traditions, I think, have those as part of the way, as part of the
love
path.
Your neighbor, they would say it differently, but love your neighbor, yes, as yourself, those are.
Yeah.
And love the mystery.
It's basically be good. Be good and do good.
And yes. And love the creative mystery.
Yeah.
Not easy and hard to know when doing good is fighting war and it's breaking up. We won't go there now because we're running out of time. And we need the oldest umpire.
We need the oldest umpire to say his piece. And for Michael Koran to elucidate.
Well, I love the way Michael told it. I will now tell it your way from now on, but with variations. And because I like my umpires raising their hands.
Well, the thing is, Michael told me this joke on the phone, so I couldn't actually see Michael on the other end raising his hand and doing whatever.
Oh, and I would suggest that the second umpire, very Catholic-like, gets to the truth. It's not co-creation. He just thinks it's not perception. He thinks I have found what's true out there.
Well, St. Paul, I think, might be a good representative for that second umpire.
Because you don't want to confuse the second with the third. And if you mention co-creation in the second, it takes away from the third, which is in some ways like that. The third umpire is saying, of course, baseball, balls and strikes, they ain't nothing till I calls them. That, there might be something there. There's a ball there. There's a bat there. There's a batter. But he's really right. They ain't.
He is naming them,
yes,
like Adam.
Yes. But
Adam in Genesis, there might be naming.
There is a baseball there. There's a bat there. There's a plate there. But whether it's a ball or a strike depends on the umpire.
Depends on the umpire and discernment.
Yeah. And the umpire knows this. And knows that we are, here I'd use the word co-creating. We are co-creating all of our reality. There was one therapist, I think he overemphasized it, but he said we're 100%, I think this is an overemphasis, but helpful, we're 100% responsible for our experience.
Perhaps you are familiar with a book that has been all the rage, The Secret. It's called The Secret, but it's been, in certain circles, it's been very, very popular. And basically, what the book postulates is that we are, exactly as that therapist, we are completely responsible for our entire reality. Yes. And we can shape our reality by the thoughts that we think and by the words that we use, and that if we want to bring good to our lives and happiness to our lives, then all that we need to do is to think these into our lives.
Yes, I would think that's a partial truth, a wonderful truth.
I agree.
So I like our
I agree with you.
Yeah, I like the.
I totally agree with
I
you.
like
Completely.
So
Michael.
Yes, a rare moment. Raise that head. So I would.
So there is truth in it, but
Yeah.
it seems to me it's going a bit far.
So I would like the word co-create to be for the Third Empire. That they.
So you like the word co-create?
I
So
love the word, and it's. But the Third Empire is the ball is there. He knows that. The batter is there, but he's co-creating with the ball and the batter, the size of the batter, and so on. He's an existentialist in philosophy.
I see.
He is either creating or co-creating his reality. And he's responsible for how he experiences that reality.
Well, the way that and maybe this is not so different from what you're saying, my take on that is that he is recognizing his own divinity. That in the same way that we were created in the image and likeness of God by being creators ourselves, that to be a human being is to create with our imagination, with our words, with our language, with technology, with whatever. We are in the image and likeness of God in that we are creators also. And that in that with that final umpire, he is recognizing that he is creating, by naming, and he is naming and shaping the world just by calling the ball or the strike.
Yeah. Now, after a while telling the story for 50 years, I realized that all three stages are necessary. If you leap
and maybe simultaneously.
But first, if you leap to the third too quickly, at least for me,
it can go to ego. Straight to ego.
I had to first really, which I'm learning now.
It takes a lifetime.
I'm doing it in a new way now. In the past, when I told my truth, I wasn't in touch with the fact that I actually had some compassion. So I was cutting off my heart, telling a partial truth, thinking it was the truth. And when I thought I was in touch with the reality, geez, that stuff would be too long to talk about.
I think the greatest truth in this trinity of umpires, is that all three of them are necessary all the time. That to be in relationship with all three simultaneously. And there will be times when it's most important most appropriate to have that humility and humanity that allows you to see that what you see is limited to, well, the way that you see it, and other people will see differently. And that there are other times where it's most appropriate and most effective to really claim your creation, your co-creation, if you will.
And to claim that you're in touch with the truth, like you are my friend. And I think we are friends. Even if we end up not talking to each other, we're still friends. I mean, the friendship might have but there's a bond of friendship and love between me, even my brother and I. For all these years, I can feel it.
And does he live in Cambridge?
No.
Okay.
And it was hard. He's a psychiatrist, and I am a writer and teacher, so we don't choose our family, as you know. You and I chose each other to be brothers.
Yeah.
But our family is a different challenge. But the bond, I would say the second umpire is right, even with my psychiatrist brother. The bond is there. It really is. We didn't feel it or know it, and now we can begin to feel it. So there is something.
So the second umpire being the one who says, I calls them as they are.
There really is a bond between people. We really are connected. This whole earth is in a web. As Teilhard de Chardin, the great Catholic theologian and paleontologist, said, we're all in the same web of being. Said this before the net. And you can.
But we also have the experience from time to time of having the veil lifted and seeing things as they are, and it's often just a momentary glimpse. And I think that the mistake can be that we take that glimpse and we spend the rest of our lives saying, I saw the truth, I found the truth, this is it, I've got it.
Danger, a great, great danger.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful short.
Which is why we need that first umpire to be part of our being, that first umpire who recognizes his own limitations. Because I believe that if we do spend the rest of our lives saying, okay, this is the truth, I saw it, I've got it, now I'm here to give it to you, we're kind of blocking ourselves off from seeing an even greater truth, and because we're clinging to something.
And that might blow up the world, those people claiming correctly that they have found our truth. And they're confusing our truth
with the truth.
With the broad, you know, God is beyond our imagination, as we are too. And to think that truth is something that can be contained might do us in.
Yeah.
That might do us in. But after this show is disseminated by all our audience and sending it to all their friends,
we will have shared this truth with all of creation.
Yes, and you can make of it.
And now we can make disciples of you, that you can go out into the world with this story of the three umpires.
Except knowing that you're going to make it your way.
That's right. You will tell the story in your own way.
Yes. Well, why don't you wrap it up for us, Michael?
Well, we've got a minute to do it.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank all of you for tuning in to watch the God Talk Guys here on Cambridge Community Access Television. This is the only place you'll find us except for the web. And Michael Koran very graciously from time to time puts episodes of ours. So if you didn't get the whole joke today because you tuned in late, you can catch it online, what, in a couple of weeks?
In another week.
Another week.
Yes, on cctv.org, actually. And other places, or YouTube, yes.
Okay.
Michael Mack, Michael Koran.
That's us.
A prayer, Michael?
Thank you, buddy.
Prayer in 15 seconds.
Give us a prayer, 15 seconds. Take us out.
May we learn the truths of the three umpires.
May we live the truths of the three umpires.
Yes, we will live the truths of the three umpires.
Amen.
Woo. Wow. Talk about.
Good show, man.
Yes, a tribute. We start. Yes, wow. Oh, yeah. Turn it off because this will be on.
Stop. Stop.